The next thing I wanted to talk about today, 40% of Hunt Showdown, and you guys know I played some Hunt Showdown, so it's very pertinent to me, players have never killed another player. If you guys don't know, this is a PvP game. This is partially because lots of people have bought the game, installed, and never played. They just don't have the achievement for it. But if you read this thread, it is full of people who are like, yeah, I downloaded the game and I tried to play, I got shot by someone and I was like, this stinks, and I quit. Even look at the top comment, right? The learning curve in Hunt is more like a giant staircase. Does this sound familiar? Hard to get to the next level, but once you're there, you're on solid ground. How many games could you copy this description and people would be like, yeah, this applies to that game? Like, in the beginning it sucks, but boy, once you get in there and you start moving and grooving, that shit's awesome. I can't think of very many competitive video games that are not like this. Actually, it's basically all of them. I'm playing the game and like I just get killed far away and I quit. Like, I don't want to spend 50 or 100 or 200 hours in a game to learn to shoot and down one person. And how many people have you heard say this about fighting games? I'm not interested. I don't want to play fighting games for hundreds of hours to get good or get a kill. Even when you scroll down and look at the other top comments, right? It's super stressful. I don't want to play it. You need someone to help you. Otherwise, you can't get into it. This one says, I played Apex Legends with some friends. After a dozen or so matches, we got slaughtered in one-sided blowouts every time. Weren't having any fun, so we moved on and played other games. You just get shot by someone. It sucks. I hate it here. This feels real bad. Every single game, even that one is like, I wish I had other modes that were better for new players. This thread is just full of people who are just like, yeah, I tried playing Tarkov and it sucked because of this. I tried to get into League of Legends and Dota and Apex, and I don't want to play 100 hours of League to learn what all the champions do and understand everything. I don't want to play 500 hours of Hunt Showdown so that I can get good enough to hear someone through the wall and shoot them under the ground and do all this kind of stuff, right? Based on threads like this and the general consensus about how bad the new player experience is for games, you would think that this style of game is not popular. But Hunt Showdown has only gained popularity since it's come out. And not only that, but every other game I've listed is amongst the most popular video games that people play. All of them have huge player bases and they're extremely popular titles, even though everybody agrees that when you first start playing, you just get destroyed. The key here is, I think, this sentence right here. Once you're there, you're on solid ground. Even if you're getting beat up and losing in the beginning, if you think the game is really cool, you will stick it out and play it. And the idea of one day being good enough to do all the cool things that you want to do, not be the best in the world, not have the greatest aim of all time, but like, if you can do a cool thing you saw that got you interested in the game in the first place, then you're like, hell yeah. And for some people, the idea that the climb to get good, the road to mastery is so long and there's so much cool stuff you can learn and get better at over time is a really big appeal. You open a thread where someone in Apex, you watch an Asu clip where he's moving. The level of movement that he has is only accessible to like 0.001% of players. And everybody's like, how does he do it? It's the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, oh my God. Or like someone hits some absurd shot or flick or thing in the game. Ungodly decision-making, reactions, like ability, and you're just very impressed. That kind of stuff exists for every game. And it's what keeps people interested, I think, in games like this. And struggling and having issues and like, not killing people for 3 or 4 games and then finally getting a kill and being like, that was so sick. Like, these feelings are stronger, I think, than the feelings for most people of just being like, game stink, me die, stinky game. I think everybody just wants to do some cool stuff. And at the end of the day, most people are okay with losing if they understand that long term, this game allows them to do lots of cool things that they like, right? Even if it means losing sometimes. And the road to that mastery and understanding that and getting there is fun. You lose some games and you feel bad, and then you have that really tight game and you're just like, oh my God, I did everything right. I remember the first time I played Apex and learned how to wall jump, and I remember sliding, wall jumping. The guy missed his shot on me and I shotgunned him off the wall, and I was like, this is the greatest video game I've ever played in my life. I didn't win the game. I don't think I even got close to winning that game. The fact that I did that cool thing made me play the game for like forever. I was like, dude, this game is tight. And that moment mattered more to me than all the, like, getting beat up, losing all these other games. You drop somewhere and you don't get a gun and the guy shoots you and kills you, and then your teammates just run around and do nothing. You're like, this sucks. All that stuff sucks, but then you have these tight moments. And I think most competitive games have that long road to mastery that a lot of people are really interested in. Or they can just set aside the fact that like I've learned all this cool stuff and I can do all these cool things now. And even if I don't win all the time, I have fun doing them and I enjoy the things that this game lets me express and do. And I think after you've learned any competitive game, you probably know this feeling where when you get into a new one, somebody's like an expert at Apex and they're like, yeah, I don't want to learn a fighting game. It's too hard. What they mean is not, oh, I couldn't learn a fighting game. What they mean is like, I'm already a master at a game that's like competitive and difficult and requires a lot of time and effort. And if I wanted to get good at something like a fighting game, I would have to redo all that. And they probably just don't have the interest to get to where they would want to be to do all the sick, nasty stuff. Or they don't think the sick, nasty stuff in that game looks more fun than what they're already doing. So they don't have interest in going on that road. If you look at a fighting game and you're like, dude, that looks cool and everything, but like, man, I don't know if it's for me. Then like, you're not going to get on the road and start losing and like get better and improve and strive towards mastery because like, you don't care where you end up. Like the end goal is not a place you're interested in. You probably already play PoE or Apex Legends or CS or Valorant or Dota or League. There are things that are occupying the space in your brain to like be on that road to mastery, right? Like why pick another one? If I pick this one, I have to start a new road to mastery. And I don't want to make it sound like all competitive games or all games where you compete against other people. Mastery means you become the best. These games just offer you a lot of ways to express your skill and improve over time. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the best at them. You can just be like, I landed this sick combo or did this sick thing or I did some movement thing in Apex or whatever it is, right? You're like, I'm the best that I've ever been at this thing and it feels great. I can feel my improvement and I'm so much better than I was before. That's why people play these games. And even a game like Hunt, which is extremely difficult to get into, it has a really hard learning curve. What you see in the future is what keeps you interested in the game or not. You just choose to deal with the beginning of them so that you can eventually get good and do those cool things that you're hyped about, right? And those moments feel great. Those moments feel better than all the moments losing. And if they stop feeling that way, that's kind of like when you maybe are not as interested or invested in the game anymore. Not even literally winning, but like the wins of like doing a sick combo, doing a sick thing that you wanted to do, executing something that you were struggling with before and now you can do all the time. If those don't feel good to you anymore, then there's a problem. 99.9% of us are not going to compete and try to be the best ever. We're playing them because we like them and we think they're fun. And mastery in this game, to our own level, whatever mastery we seek is fun for us, right? We like it. It's enjoyable. Yeah, this can totally apply to anything. I mean, it doesn't have to just be competitive games. It can apply to like, let's say you want to learn music or something. You like sit down and they're like, okay, these are all the keys you need to learn, okay? And let's start playing some of them and I'll do this and let's move, use both of our hands and learn some chords and do this and like, let's talk about some basics. And you're like, this is so much. Do I really want to like learn this vast onboarding experience so that I can play some song I like? It's like that for that. It's like that for complex single player games or whatever skill you're building. It could be anything. Particularly, I think people really love when the level of mastery is so deep that there's so many ways you can go. And if you take two people who are experts in a field, right, even they have different things that they're better at than the other, right? They have different levels of mastery or things that they can or can't do or better at and worse at. Even if their stats are like 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 and everything, they're spread and different than other players or people. They all have their own skills and things that they think matter or they like to do or they prefer. And that's why, you see this thread and everybody's like, I got shot in the back and it sucked and I quit. And I'm like, fair enough. There was not enough interest here for you, or you didn't care about the game enough to get better at it, or it just didn't strike you the way you thought it was. You weren't interested. You're just like, I'm not sure if it's for me. But I'll tell you what, feels fucking great for me. I'm feeling fantastic. And that's the thing is like, you could be like, well, you got shot in the back, you deserve it because X, Y, and Z, or like, it happens because of this, and this. But like, if you're truly this person, they don't care. They're just like, oh, shot in the back, this sucks. And they're just out of there, right? They're not on the road to mastery. They're on their road to going back to where they came from or playing something new. So Street Fighter 6, right? They have done so many things to improve the new player experience, even with their best efforts. If someone plays the game, does all the new player stuff, and then plays online and loses, and it's like, this stinks, man, punch me no like, there's nothing you can do about it. If you craft an experience that's as awesome as you could be, and you show them, look at all these cool combos you can do, look at all these cool things people are doing, look at all this cool future stuff, there's all these awesome things to do, you can learn this way, you can learn that way, there's so many things about this that are great. Please stick around and enjoy it with us and like engage with it, and like, trust me, it's worth it. They will run into that moment or that person who beats them up in a way that doesn't sit right with them. And that will be the moment where they decide whether they're interested on staying on this road or they're like, I've had my fun. I'm good. If they're not interested, then there's nothing you can do about it. You gotta just be like, well, we tried. And that's fine. The difference between fighting games and shooters like Apex, in shooters, there aren't individual actions that can be difficult to perform. All right, you've lost your typing privileges in my chat. It's just not true. Apex in particular, like, have you ever handed a controller to your grandparents or uncles or someone older than you or someone who's never played a shooting game before? Even on mouse and keyboard, they can't move and aim at the same time because their brains doesn't feel right to do those two things at once. Have you watched Giuna play Valorant? I don't mean that to dig Giuna. I just mean Giuna is new to the game. I think he's playing it because he's interested in it, but he's also wants to see what it's like, right? And you can ask him how bad the new player experience is. This is someone who can do all the complex stuff of a fighting game, right? You watch him and he can't shoot someone who's not moving. There's a fighting game player, this is true, a fighting game player who has made top 8 at major tournaments, 9th at EVO like 3 times. They were like, hey, in a shooting game, I didn't know that when you hold down the click button, the gun goes up. Like, they didn't understand recoil as a concept. There was a friend, he can remain nameless, but he was in the chat earlier, who won an Apex Legends game by doing 0 damage and dying because we just killed everybody. He never played Apex again after that. He won and was like, all right, that sucked. I spent the entire game running behind Sajam and Tan Man, fumbling with my controls and never seeing an enemy, and then we won came up on the screen. You did great. Excellent work. You know why you say shooting games are intuitive? It's because you play them or you've been around them. Shooting games have lots of things that are not intuitive to people too who've never played shooting games. In the same way that fighting games are the same way. They have things that are unintuitive to people who've never played fighting games. All genres are like this. If you play shooting games where moving and shooting is good, and then you play a game like Valorant or CS, and you try to like do that, you're like, whoa. Everybody's like, yeah, you can't do that here. This is not that kind of a game. Even that is different and not intuitive to people. Trust me, I play Hunt Showdown, and I play it with my friends who are, they played a lot of shooting games, and teaching them the mechanics of that game, they're like, this shit is like, there's a lot going on. There's a lot I gotta remember. This is hard. Like, it's not easy to do. And they play other shooting games, right? People don't learn fighting games not because they're not learnable. It's because they just are not interested. It's the whole thing I've been talking about today. I think part of why people say fighting games are so hard, that fighting game players don't play anything else, really. Especially a lot of people who are like big into fighting games and like vocal about them. A lot of them don't play any other games. And then they talk about fighting games like, yeah, the new game experience of all these other games is so much better than, learning fighting games. I'm like, bro, you don't even play anything else. How would you even know? They don't play League, Dota, CS, Valorant. They've like never tried to learn a game like that. And then once they do, they're like, oh shit. They talk about fighting games like it's the hardest thing ever. But at the same time, they're incredibly rewarding and about as difficult, to me anyway, as learning anything else. Like, look, I've learned all kinds of games before in my life. And it's, it's pretty similar. In the beginning, you get beat up and it sucks. But you just have to find all the cool stuff you want to do and then figure that out and then do that. And it's great. From my own experience being a new player, I think mashing in a fighting game is like really fun and a great time. Dude, when I first learned fighting games, you know what my strategy was? And this worked to get like 2,000 player points in Street Fighter 4, which was decently high. My strategy with Abel was I would do roll and then I'd command grab. And then after I landed the command grab, I would just roll and do crouching heavy punch. And if they got hit, I would do the falling sky into the same left-right mix-up. And if they didn't get hit, I would cancel into roll and hope I didn't get punished. That's all I did. And the reason I rolled into command grab was twofold. One, doing the command grab input without a buffer before it was hard. So I rolled so that I could do the command grab input during the roll. The second reason is because it got me near them. It was a fun time. I probably had more fun doing that than I did when I had like 4,500 player points playing Elena, sitting there doing crouching jabs. No, I probably had more fun playing Elena. That shit was great. You know how fun it was? All of the Viper players on the West, like everybody I played, all the Viper players were like free points. And they just stopped playing me. I would join their lobby and they just kick me. That shit was tight. I had an excellent time and I'd do it again. The most intuitive part about learning fighting games is the specialist terminology. Have you ever talked to your friends about a MOBA or something? You're like, dude, our ADC was kiting, but like he's actually just so useless because he didn't even have blue buff because he didn't steal it, and I tried to leash it for him and he went for it, but he didn't take it over the wall, so then they smited it away instead of killing it, and then he didn't have mana, so they couldn't kite anymore, and his orb walking is dog shit, and you're just like, what are these? None of these words are in the dictionary. It's just the same thing. D&D players, yeah, everything has its own language. Music has its own language. Other games have their own language. Every hobby has their own language. It's all the same.
Listen,
Sajamly feud, I run that too. Just imagine I put on like an extra big fake mustache. We surveyed 100 fighting game players why they lost that set. And someone says a completely normal response and I'm like, and I just like fall over in my chair. Survey says, I don't even play this game. Top answer, bing, 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 bing. It was my own fault and skill. Oh, not on the board.